Right now, California is, as almost always, devastated by fires, and we want to focus on one of them. It is the Dixie Fire, which was bad earlier this week. It was really bad yesterday, but in the transition to today, got far worse. So it has grown by more than 97,000 acres in just 24 hours. And even that data is, of course, out of date, so God only knows what it's like now. But earlier this week, it leveled the town of Greenville in Northern California. It became the largest blaze currently in the US this year, having burned over 432,000 acres by Friday morning. We can show you a projection of the territory that's been affected by it. So it's grown by about a quarter in just a day. 7,900 people live within 5 miles of the territory that's currently burning, but you can see the territory that's already destroyed. Still growing, only about 35% contained. So this is obviously devastating, and there's a lot of property and potentially lives, let alone countless animals who are still being threatened by this. But we also want to put it in context because we've been talking about this throughout the week. It was the 3rd worst wildfire in California, or sorry, the 6th worst in California history a couple days ago. It's moving fast. Right now it's the 3rd. It will almost certainly become the 2nd ever. And so you might say, well, how bad could the previous ones have been if this one can so rapidly jump up the list? Well, the thing about the list of the worst wildfires in California history is that they are changing fast. So let's bring this up. This is a 10 worst ever. Do you notice a pattern with the years? A lot of 20s in there. We're not done with 21. I hope the Dixie's the only one from 21 that makes it on there. But virtually all of the worst wildfires have gotten there in the past 4 or so years. You have to go all the way to number 10 to find one as old as almost 20 years ago. And it's not just the numbers of fires that have gone up, according to a researcher at Columbia University. The amount of burned areas since the 1980s in California has doubled, more than doubled, and the fire seasons are starting earlier. So the Dixie Fire ignited on July 13th, about 2 weeks before the state typically experiences its most intense fires. And that is partially because everything is drier. There was one firefighter who said the area that is now being threatened, everything was so dry that it looked like it itself might combust before the fire even hit it. And so that leads to more territory being destroyed when the fires do hit. Fires that burn for longer, cover more territory, and start earlier in the year.
Okay, so 2 aspects of this. Number 1, the world's on fire, California's on fire. In the old days, you say, oh, don't go to California, you'll get hit with an earthquake. It turns out that's a relatively minor issue. The real problem is California is now every summer constantly on fire. And you saw the chart that John just showed you, 17, 18, 20, 21, right? All the biggest fires. And the earth is getting warmer and warmer, and Palm Springs was 122 degrees, broke a record, okay?
Jeez.
We break records every year, and every year we're told, oh, that happens once every 500 years. No, it happens every year. Climate change is real, it's not in the future, it's right now. The planet is absolutely burning. Siberia is on fire, the Arctic is on fire. This is insanity, right? They're gonna look back in history and say, well, didn't you guys know? Yeah, we knew. Well, why didn't you do something, right? Greed. The oil companies and the electric companies and all of these different companies, America allowed for legalized bribery, and they just bought the politicians, which brings us to point number 2. California is run by Democrats, so we should be good, right? Are you kidding me? Then if you say that, you don't know anything about politics, right? So Democrats, I got news for you, are just as corrupt as Republicans, with the exception of progressive Democrats that don't take corporate contributions. If you take corporate contributions, you're corrupt, period. Best case, unfortunately, is the state of California, where the Democrats are infinitely corrupt. So PG&E might have started this fire. That is one of the theories now as to why this horrible fire started. They have started many fires because why? They didn't want to they wanted to cut costs and not take their wires and put them underground like you're supposed to. Any rational system would do it, and it's a monopoly. There is no second electric company we can go to in most of these regions. So they said, oh, I got a great idea. I'll keep my costs super low. I'll charge as high as I can. How am I gonna get away with that? Oh, I'll just pay off Democrats and Republicans in California. Don't get me wrong, they pay off Republicans too. But 2/3 of their contributions recently have gone to Democrats. Why? Because the Democrats are in charge. Democrats happily took it. PG&E, because of previous fires, has already been convicted of 84 counts of felony manslaughter. Felony manslaughter. People died because PG&E convicted, right? During their bankruptcy because of that conviction and afterwards, the politicians in California still took $2.1 million from them after they knew they were murderers. And they're like, oh, murderers, no problem, give me the money, give me the money, give me the money. All I care about is the money. Did the press call them out and go, this is outrageous. Look at these corrupt criminals taking money from PG&E that starts all these fires and gets people killed? No, the press is like, oh yeah, we'll cover it here and there, but it's totally fine. Democrats are awesome. No, they're not. They're grotesque, okay? Especially in California, which leads us to Gavin Newsom. He's being recalled and the clown is losing right now. We might have you want to talk about a sideshow, Bob? We might have Larry Elder as our governor soon. You know why? The press doesn't tell you. The press says, oh, I don't know why it's happening. Republicans are upset, and maybe something to do with COVID or something in mass, right? No, progressives also despise the corruption of the Democratic Party, and everybody can see it now, man. It's visible. Now, you want to know how much Gavin Newsom's taken from PG&E recently? $200,000. When a reporter finally asked him about it, he said, I don't even understand why you're asking. We're asking, Gavin, because we think you're grotesquely corrupt. That's why we're asking. Now, hold on. I hope you're sitting. Do you know how much Gavin Newsom has taken in his career from PG&E? $10 million.
Jeez.
$10 million since he first ran for San Francisco supervisor in 1998. Gee, I wonder why he didn't hold PG&E accountable. I wonder why he didn't make them bury the lines. Why he never regulated them. And then, by the way, after all the fires, he took taxpayer money and gave it to PG&E to fix the problem. No, they're supposed to spend their own goddamn money, okay? No, the Democrats are hopeless. So, now, and what we're constantly stuck in this situation of insane Republicans or horribly corrupt Democrats. Now, by the way, don't get me wrong, the insane Republicans are also corrupt. So it's a Hobbes's choice, and then the audacity of the corrupt, where they then come to shows like ours and go, oh, you haven't supported Democrats enough. You guys know that you're supposed to be reporters and you're yelling at other people in the media that they haven't done enough propaganda for one of the parties? Just retire, man. You guys are all pathetic. All right, Sabrina.
No, I can't picture Gavin Newsom taking money from a Ted Bundy, from a Dahmer, and yet he has no problem taking over $200,000 from PG&E. Meanwhile, they are still bribing politicians in this way, and they are pretending as if they are, well, I mean, they are bankrupt, but they're using their bankruptcy as an excuse to not pay the victims. They go and they say that and they say, oh, sorry, we're bankrupt, can't pay you. Let's negotiate a lower amount. Or here, have some shares in the company, have some stock, even though it's obviously gonna plummet. And yet they still have the money to pay people like Gavin Newsom and other representatives. It's disgusting. I don't understand why it's okay for, I mean, it just depends. It doesn't even matter which side of the aisle is on. It's a matter of who is going to protect them, you know? They don't have actual values. It's just who is going to take our money, our blood money.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one last thing to a great point made by Sabrina there. When they took the victims of the earlier fires whose families burnt to death, okay? They said, well, we don't have any money. By the way, while they were saying they don't have any money, they gave $2 million to politicians, okay? And then they said, okay, instead we're gonna give you stock. So when the next fire happens, you'll be shareholders of the company that did it and partly morally culpable. Just when you thought they couldn't get any more disgusting.